Thanks for joining us today. I'm Sister Mary Ketchum, your host on the Parish Insights podcast. Before we get started, I would like to remind you to pass our podcast on to your friends and to give us a thumbs up on your podcatcher or YouTube. Picture the last time you were in a desperate spot: a financial crunch, a health scare, or a season of crushing loneliness. Think about the hat-in-hand phone call you had to make to someone with the power to help. You likely spent an hour pacing the living room, rehearsing your opening lines, and trying to find the perfect combination of words to unlock their sympathy. This is what I call the scarcity model of prayer. In this framework, we act as solicitors making a high-stakes sales pitch. We assume that we care more about our problems than the reluctant CEO upstairs does, so we feel we must badger, persuade, or wake God up from a nap to get a signature on a solution. We treat prayer as a negotiation where we have the demand, He has the supply, and we must bridge the gap with pure persuasion. But what if this entire mental model is backward? What if prayer isn't about overcoming God's reluctance, but about catching up to His initiative? To shift from a life of spiritual struggle to one of alignment, we must embrace a radical reality. God has already moved. 1. You are dealing with an initiative taker, not a benevolent responder. To understand the heart of the divine, we must look at the hierarchy of human generosity. Most of us imagine God as a benevolent responder, a kind person who genuinely wants to help but remains passive until the application arrives. If no one knocks, the resources stay locked away. However, the reality is far more profound. We are dealing with the rarest sort of giver, the initiative taker. This is the heart that identifies a need before the victim even realizes it exists. This giver prepares the solution in advance and seeks out the recipient. When God sets conditions or requirements for our prayers, they aren't red tape or bureaucratic hoops, they are guardrails. He establishes a sympathetic relation to ensure that we are in a state to actually receive and use the solution so the gift isn't wasted on a heart that doesn't yet understand its purpose. God has a great heart yearning after His poor prodigal world. He isn't reacting to your prayers. Your prayers are a reaction to His prompting. He has already moved toward the solution before you even knelt to ask. 2. The library principle: supply precedes demand. We often view prayer as a way to create a new resource in the future. But in the divine economy, the supply precedes the demand. Consider the library principle. When a donor builds a library, fills the shelves, and unlocks the doors, they are acting on a desire that exists decades before a student ever walks in. When you enter that building to check out a book, you aren't causing the library to be built. You are simply aligning yourself with a decision made long ago. Whether it is a wealthy Englishman providing for a mission before he is ever asked, or a donor establishing a public space for the good of a city, the logic is the same. The provision is a historical fact. Prayer is not a negotiation for a future favor. It is the act of stepping into a reality that has already been prepared. Your hunger for a solution is actually the proof that the meal has already been cooked. 3. Prayer is physics, not persuasion. We often think of calling upon God as a way to inform Him of a problem. In reality, prayer functions through resonance, a sympathetic relation borrowed from the laws of physics. Think of two tuning forks. If you strike one, a nearby fork tuned to the same frequency will begin to vibrate automatically. It doesn't ring because it was hit. It rings because it is in sympathy with the first fork. Prayer is the process of tuning your will to God's frequency. When we are told to call, it isn't a mechanical trigger to make God act. Instead, the call is the physical pivot of the soul. It is the moment the human will turns its face toward the solution. Prayer isn't you hitting God to make Him ring. It is you finally vibrating in resonance with the note He has been sounding since the beginning of time. 4. The delay is a tuning issue, not a hearing issue. If God is the ultimate initiative taker, why the silence? Why the delay? The answer lies in the delivery mechanism, the human will. God has limited Himself to work through our free and glad consent. He is an eager donor, but He is working through a jammed receiver. We are currently living under the influence of a pretender prince, a past master in the fine art of handling men. This master manipulator has spent ages warping our judgment, sapping our resolve, and blurring our mental vision. Because of this interference, our wills are often hard of tuning. Persistence in prayer is required not because God is testing our sincerity or sleeping, but because it takes time to unclench a warped will. God has a hard time not because he lacks the power to give, but because he refuses to bulldoze our consent. The struggle of prayer is the slow, deliberate process of clearing the interference until we are finally in tune enough to let the solution in. From battleground to meeting place. When we stop viewing prayer as a sales pitch, the heavy lifting shifts from our shoulders to God's. We no longer have to be the salesman, we only have to be the responder. This transforms prayer from a desperate battleground into a peaceful meeting place where we finally agree with a solution that was initiated long ago. As you reflect on your own needs this week, move from struggle to alignment by asking yourself this. If the solution is already there, initiated by him, are you really waiting on him? Or is he actually waiting on you? I want to remind you to visit our website. We're offering a special on our latest ebook, Freedom in Forgiveness. Until next time, God bless. And speech.